amount of teeth as a normal domesticated horse? I think so. I've never seen a horse skull, however, and we were counting them the other day, weren't we? Didn't we say that there were, I'm just trying to see, 3, 6, and then there were 4 in front, so 10. Didn't we say that they had 16 teeth or something like that? I can't exactly remember. When I was in the tent, I was having a look at the zebra skull. But I'm almost certain that, their anatomy is so similar. I couldn't imagine why a domesticated horse would need less or more teeth than a zebra. They're feeding on very much the same thing. So I'm fairly confident in saying yes. I've just forgotten how many teeth they had. If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure that they had 6 molars on either side of the jaw, so 18 molars in total, and then they had their other teeth. I'm trying to think. I can't remember, but someone can help me out there. You're welcome to #SafariLive. Let me know. I've just forgotten. I feel like I've forgotten everything about the animals, and I have to learn it all again. That's another thing. There we go. Kobe was asking earlier, how difficult is it to sort of get back into the bush? Just remembering everything again. I don't know why. I don't know why in 2 weeks I feel as though I've forgotten everything that I've learnt in the past, however long I've been in the bush. Aren't you beautiful? Chewing away. They don't look as happy as that they did in summer, though, when the grass was a lot greener. But they'll survive. I think they'll be okay. I reckon with all these strange signs of the birds starting to nest already, and Tristan said he's seen red-breasted swallows and lesser-striped swallows a little bit early. So, and I know the Wahlberg's eagles have started their migration back south. I wonder if we're not going to get early rain. These animals know a lot more than what we do, and they can sense these types of things. So I reckon we might see some decent rain this year, hopefully. I think we all hope for it. It'll be quite nice. Then we can do a big burn next year. Oh my goodness, now the birds are really starting to chirp. They started late this morning. Turtle dove calling again. It is nice just to sit and listen every now and then. Obviously, when we go out guiding and you guide guests, we guide a lot sort of differently to how we take you on a sort of virtual safari. We definitely stop and smell a lot of things. Obviously, unfortunately, you aren't able to smell anything. We listen a lot. We do sit quietly for quite some time in sightings and sort of just let the animals do the talking. Obviously, interpret what's going on. But it is nice to just sit quietly every now and then and just really just enjoy it and take it all in. But we sort of cater to everybody's needs. Oh, so we've got some new viewers today, and the questions are coming from Walt and Cadius. So hello to you. I'm so glad that you found us, and we hope you continue watching. Now, you're wondering if zebra stripes are white on black or black on white. Now, this is the most common question that we get asked, and it's quite interesting because if you look at a zebra, you go, there's more white on them, so they must be white with black stripes. And it's actually the complete opposite. So the pigment of the skin underneath all that hair is actually black. And it's the same for anybody in the Equus family. I've had a grey horse before. You could turn back his hair and you'll see that the colour of his skin was actually black. So the zebra is black, black with white stripes. It's just the hair. And then in the case of the zebra species that we're looking at the moment, they almost look very dirty. It's hard to see, but they've also got a shadow stripe, which is quite cool. But we've been lucky today. We've been spoiled with all sorts of animals. I think what we'll do is we'll pop onto Chitwa, have a little look around there. I don't know if these lions are still here. They could have crossed out quite easily. And let's go across to Tristan. I know he's been on the radio chatting, trying to track some animals. And let's go see if he's still hot on the heels of that leopard.
Well, unfortunately not, Ted. I've lost her tracks and I can't see where she's gone. So I've come back around to where the last time I saw tracks are. And we've just noticed a vulture that's in the background there. It's quite difficult to see because it's against the light completely, so it's a silhouette, but there is a white-backed vulture that's sitting, and I'm sure that white-backed vulture is super glad, as are we, for the sun to be breaking through those clouds and for us to actually be getting a bit of warmth for a little bit. It certainly has been quite on the chilly side, particularly down in the Mulawati. It's not been very pleasant there at all. Now, Senzo's got lots of branches and things in the way, so I do apologize about that. It's not really a clearer view. I can try maybe go back a bit, Senzo. Just hold it there like that. It's going to be a bit of a shake, so let's just see if when I go back there, that's maybe a little bit better. There we go. So the reason why we know it's a white-backed vulture is one, because white-backs are pretty much the most common, but two, that shape that you see there is very indicative of a white-backed. You'll find that the white-headed and the lappet face are bigger birds than what you see on that one. They also have bigger, heavier set beaks and heads, and the hooded vulture, which is the other species we get here, is much smaller with a much more slender beak than what you see on this particular bird. So white-backed is pretty much it. You do get Cape vultures that look very similar to white-backs, and even in size they're a little bit larger, but not much. The thing is with the Cape vultures is that they are very rare, and the chances of one sitting on a tree like that and not at a carcass is almost non-existent. The only time we ever see the Cape vultures is when we get big carcasses and lots of vultures arrive. But otherwise it's really just these guys that hang around. So I'm sure this one has been sitting on that dead tree just trying to absorb some sort of warmth and some sort of kind of heat to be able to actually then fly in and wait for the thermals to come up. Now, I'm not sure where these tracks end up. Like I said, I think she's turned more towards the drainage lines, and that's why we're battling to find her at the moment. I'm just checking now. Like I said, I came back because I wanted to see if I could find any further sign of her moving around in this area, and so far I can't see anything. I'm going to just reverse a little, well, not reverse, sorry, go forward a little bit, just to check if there isn't any sign of her up front here. Obviously I've driven here now, so I might have squashed tracks, and it's going to be much harder to see where those tracks went. That's why ideally when you're doing these kind of tracking things is you try and follow on the road as much as possible, but as soon as you stop seeing them is to stop immediately and then get out and try and check which way they go, because she could have turned north up towards Nyala Road North, which I haven't checked yet, or she could have gone south towards Nyala Road South. Now I did a little bit of Nyala Road South, and then I picked up tracks for what looks like a young male, so I don't know if maybe Tamba and Tundi are both in this area, and that's why their tracks are up and down. So I just wanted to really make sure as to what's going on. I'll go back towards Nyala Road South just now. Remember clearly that this is where I lost the tracks earlier. There was a herd of impalas close by, and so maybe it was where she went in and she was stalking these impalas. It could very well be. There certainly is no more sign of any tracks any further here. Michael, you're wondering what the word Nyala means? Well, Michael, it means an onion. That's what it means in the language that is in this area, and it's said that the reason why a Nyala was called a Nyala is because of the striping pattern that you see, and that striping pattern is very similar to the layers of an onion, and so that's where the name came from. Now Senzo, if you can show this track on the ground, it seems to be a tracking morning that I'm doing this morning, because we're finding all kinds of interesting little tracks all over the place. But just here you can see going across the road in that direction, there is a lot of disturbance on the road. Now that is for a snake. Now this would have been, I would imagine, from yesterday when it was still fairly warm in the morning. I doubt the snake was moving around last night, although it does seem as though it's on top of all the other vehicle tracks. But no, actually I can see that there's a bird track through there, and one of the nocturnal species has also ran through there, so definitely not from last night, it was from the day before. You can see there's lots of little tracks in between, but this must have been quite a large snake that came across here. It's got a big broad body, and it looks as though it was actually lying and curled up at one point on the road, or at least it spent a bit of time there, because you can see, look how wide that track is, and where it moves is a lot narrower. It's obviously just stopped there for a little bit and then slithered on from that section. So nice big track. It does have quite a sort of side movement to it, so I'd imagine it's one of the bigger snakes that maybe like a cobra or a mamba or something like that. So that's what I would imagine it to be. Now, these tracks are nowhere to be seen here. She must have turned somewhere behind me. So I just want to try and go back and just check quickly where the last track is. This is the thing about tracking, is it can sometimes be a little bit up and down, and you know, obviously when you're at a lodge you have a tracker that you just drop off on foot and he carries on with the tracks while you drive round to the other side, and he can give you a better idea of where the tracks are heading, and that certainly does help. But this morning we're all on our own. There's no other vehicles anywhere remotely close to where we are, and so that means we're going to have to try and do this all on our own, which is okay. That's more of a challenge and more fun anyway, because if we do find her, it will be certainly a good experience. Roshni, you asking how is it that we don't often see snakes on live drive? Well, Roshni, there's a simple reason for it, is that snakes can't be that visible, because if they're that visible they're going to be killed by a lot of different things, and so they actually camouflage incredibly well. Snakes that are in grass like this, you will not see them even if you're within 2 or 3 meters of them. The snakes that we do see generally are in trees. It's also, don't forget that it's been winter now, so the snakes are not as active in the winter months. They tend to be more active in the summer months, and so when summer comes and it heats up, then we should start to see snakes a little bit more than what we are now. I'm hoping that we will see some as summer progresses, and we'll see them out and about and doing their thing. You'll often find things like vine snakes or boomslang, which is basically a tree snake, or even mambas in these bush willows, particularly as the temperatures change and starts to get warm. So that little warm snap that we had just now, or last week, would have been a perfect time to actually look for snakes, because they'll often be sunning themselves on these trees, and now that the trees are bare you can spot them. But the best way to look for them is actually at night with the spotlight, is that's how you often spot snakes a lot easier. Right, where is the last? Okay, so I've got tracks here, and they look as though they go southwards by what I can see. So the last track is there. I'm just trying to work out where exactly they go, because like I say, once they cut off it becomes very difficult. There certainly is tracks here, so that is a good sign. Good sign. We've still got tracks. Okay, now they're going towards the middle of the road. Just trying to work out, like I say, if she's gone north or if she's continued straight and then cut southwards, because obviously that will indicate which way we go. But here is kind of where the tracks turn off, so I'm going to try and see if I can't have a look and have a check at what's going on here. No, I can't see. I'm going to need to actually get off and go and do this on foot, because otherwise there's no chance with the vehicle. It's difficult tracks to see. The road gets quite hard just up ahead here, so I'm definitely going to have to try and do this on foot, which is going to definitely be interesting, to say the least, given where we are and the density of the bush in this particular section. I think we might be carrying a stick with us as well, given that there's a nice big drag mark on the road of a stick dragging. Come on, Rusty, into reverse. Right, now I'm going to check where these tracks go and just have a little quick jump off the car, and while I do that, let's go back across to Taylor and see if she's made her way to Chitwa yet.
At this rate, I don't think Tristan's going to be allowed to come back for breakfast until he finds this animal. Hey, what do you all think? What do you think, Seb? Just teasing. So yes, we were on Chitwa. We actually quickly drove over the dam wall, and the reason why is because I heard that actually there were some lions here on Chitwa, not the Birminghams, but by the sounds of it, it sounds like there's some Styx lions. So they obviously crossed out where we were tracking them. They were definitely in and out of Djuma last night, obviously looking for some animals. I did see a lot of waterbuck, as I was telling you earlier, and the zebra, so maybe they were trying to chase them around. Obviously didn't catch anything this side. I didn't get too much information. I couldn't quite hear what Jamie was trying to tell me. about these lions. I don't know if they were recently just found, but everybody's disappeared already, and they've left it an open sighting because I think a cheetah was found somewhere on Cheetah Plains. So I think that everyone's gone racing that way to go and have a look at the cheetah. Let's quickly just go all the way around. It's something about the eastern side of the airstrip, so that's down there, but let's just drive the entire length of the strip. And the reason why, we did just see a plane taking off. Now, the animals are actually quite used to planes taking off of vehicles. They actually don't mind them too much at all. But I don't know what Styx lions are like, if that maybe would have given them a bit of a fright. So we really just check this whole area. It's nice and open now too, so you can really see quite far into the distance. So we'll go, take the scenic way around. Oh, and it's got freezing now all of a sudden too. I can't believe it. I've had to add my scarf to my attire. Hi birds. Oh goodness, don't lose your feathers there. Go away. Bird panicked as I drove past. We'll turn this way. Nothing just yet. A couple of elephant tracks again. Looks like a big bull was walking around here. It would be nice to see. I'm looking forward to eventually having a sighting with a whole herd of elephants. I think that's going to be quite nice. Just keep scanning. It's very important that you scan. But let's just take a moment. I just want to show, can we show them how far you can see down there? Look at that. Isn't that so amazing? Just a couple of months ago, you wouldn't have been able to have seen anything. And look at that, how far you can see into the distance. That area down there is the opposite, or the plain that's opposite the dam. Now, this is what we love about winter. Even from over here, you'd spot a herd of elephants moving in the distance. You could spot lions sleeping, giraffe, really anything crossing that open area. Oh, that's great. And I said I did want to take a bit of time to, of course, appreciate sort of how open everything is, because that was something that I was really, really, really looking forward to. And, well, we've got it. And then, I was just about to take a picture of that bearded lacewing too. And as I was about to stop, Seb goes, oh, it flew away. So I didn't even get a picture of it. So if any of you did manage to take some screenshots, please could you share it with all of us? Hashtag Safari Live. You can even tag Tristan and I in it. It's very, very interesting little creature to see. And I hope that we come across something like that. I might actually do a bit of digging around the car park and see if I can't find another one. I'm sure if there was one, there'd be more. And it was quite nice. Okay, just about to pop out onto the airstrip now. We've got a little bit of a way to go. Where'd the elephant go? You went down that way. There's lots of animals. Oh, okay. So Cheryl and Toby, you've said that domestic horses and zebra have anywhere between 36 and 40 teeth, depending on, of course, their sex and their age. So that's quite interesting to know. So that definitely makes, some sense. There's Warthogs, there's Impala, and there was one Wildebeest, obviously a male. Look at him. He's quite funny. Very confused species, this one. That's a big Impala. Having a scratch, but we do know that, of course, the male wildebeest mark and defend territories, and they don't do the massive migrations like what we've been seeing in Kenya. So they wait for the girls to come to them. I also must make sure that there's no aeroplanes coming to land, otherwise we're in their spot. Just listening very carefully. Carry on, you're going to get left behind and you'll be a target. If you go in between those Impala, they won't see you. And I'm just joking, of course. The wildebeest stands out like a sore thumb. Having a quick look at us. Oh, and here comes the wind again. I think we're going to be in for a very windy afternoon safari. But I suppose it's also not uncommon for this time of the year. Normally August, September is the windiest sort of season around here. So we'll just have to sort of bear it for the moment. In defecating, looks like he's defecated in that spot a couple of times, creating a midden. And off he goes. Okay, bye. Right, let's go down the airstrip. Oh, yes. Now, James, you've said perhaps there'll be some jackal around the airstrip. I hope so. Always keen to see jackals. I miss the black-backed jackals though. They're my favorite species. I like the side stripe. I do prefer this sort of. I feel like the black-backed jackal is more bold. If anything, the side stripe are quite sort of shy. Now we need to keep an eye out for these lions. Now, if they're on the eastern side of the airstrip, then theoretically they should be on our right. Don't you think the airstrip looks lovely from all that serious wind we had? It's been it's sort of blown completely clean. There's just a couple of tired tracks here and there, but it's lovely and smooth. It's very nice. It's like someone's come out and raked. Okay, lions, lions, where are you? We'll just drive slowly down the airstrip. It's not like we're in a hurry to get anywhere, are we? Not too bad. Some footprints. I think the guides come and run up and down the airstrip. Nothing just yet. I wonder if they're going to be laying out in the sun enjoying the warmth. I'm sure they will. It's not quite hot enough yet to go sort of tuck yourself away and hide underneath a tree. Maybe a little bit later. Is that a termite mound or those lions? I don't know what that is. No, those are not lions. Where are you, kitty cats? Now, Copal, you're wondering if that wildebeest would have been vulnerable being out in the open on the airstrip. Sometimes it's not a bad thing being out in the open. Remember, there was very few spots that say lions could hide behind because it's completely open. Yes, they can sit right down on the ground and sort of camouflage quite well with a sat, but that wildebeest will have a better chance of spotting those lions out in the open than if it was in a thicket somewhere. The lions then would have the upper hand. So I'm just thinking the eastern side of the airstrip, so they must be here somewhere. Let's just have a quick squiz down one of these roads. If I can't find them, then we'll try and us again. There's lion tracks here. Let's just follow the lion tracks and they go this way, and then I'm sure we'll see some vehicle tracks. Oh, lots of lion tracks. Okay, so they've been busy. They obviously I'm sure they would have had a drink at Chitwa Dam last night too. Now which way? Well, there's going both ways. Maybe they've moved. No, let's just follow these tracks. Like I said, everyone raced off. I don't think they were at this lion sighting for very long. Definitely quite possible that these cats could have moved already. But there are tracks going along this way, and I'll just keep following them. This is where we have to concentrate, make sure that we don't miss. The grass is quite tall here. See, there's still one set of tracks going here. Maybe they're in here somewhere. I haven't seen any prominent two tracks going off the road just yet. We'll just take it very easy. Yeah, I don't know. Quite interesting. I'm just sorry. I'm just focusing at the moment. If you're wondering why I'm being rude and not looking back at you, it is so easy to miss these animals. Now, I believe you're all having a chat about how you would get to us if you wanted to visit us here in the Sabi Sand. There's many different places. Obviously, if you were going to stay at Chitwa Lodge, where it's convenient, you can just fly straight in from Johannesburg or from Nelspruit. You could fly a small aircraft. There are obviously no big Boeings landing on these runways. They're quite short, so normally in Cessnas and Barons and Caravans that you would sort of fly in on. And here's tracks. Here's vehicle tracks. Let's just quickly carry on. So you could do that. You could fly to Skukuza, and then you could fly from Johannesburg. You could even fly from Cape Town straight to Skukuza, though I must tell you that flight is one of the most expensive flights in the country, the Cape Town to Skukuza trip. And then you could take a transfer from there and come through the sands. Wonderful. Let's ask where these lions are. Mfo, hello, how are you? I'm good. Do you know where those Nyala are? No, the Mafazis. On here. Okay, perfect. I was just following the Nkonzo. Okay, cool. Thanks so much. There we go. So I'm gonna go down on this road. So they're somewhere around here in this vicinity. We're looking for fresh tracks, of course, fresh off-roading tracks. So there's many different ways you can even drive. You know, there's beautiful routes. It's quite nice to go through the Long Tom Pass and, you know, visit the Pilgrim's Rest. I think it's not a bad drive coming from Joburg. Go through Dullstrom, which is great fly fishing, really pretty around there. All these different areas. So you can really choose which way you want to go and what type of thing you would like to do. It's a long drive though, and to get to the northern Sabi Sand from Johannesburg is a good 6-hour drive. It's not an easy drive, but you could probably break it up, drive to Dullstrom, spend a night or two there. It's, like I said, it's very pretty, and then continue your journey. It's really up to you. Where are these cats? So hopefully we're going to find them. I'm sure they're around here somewhere. If not, I'll jump on the radio and find out exactly, and find out someone who's been into the sighting. And while we do that, seems as though Tristan's back in the car. Let's go and get an update from him.
Well, we managed to find the tracks, and I took a walk and I tracked this female going right towards this drainage line off Nyala Road South. And it's interesting because I found inside there, I found elephant dung that is still warm if you touch it, and there is urine from the elephants that is pooled that hasn't actually even soaked into the ground yet. And given how dry it is, that should soak immediately, and her tracks are on top of those elephant tracks. So she's somewhere here. I've just got to try and find her now. The problem is that it is very dense, very thick, and she could be anywhere in this drainage section, which is not easy to negotiate in any way. Whether or not I'm going to be able to find her in there is anyone's guess, but I reckon we must have just missed her this morning. She must have walked, I would say maybe half an hour, not even, within half an hour of when we first found those tracks. So she's somewhere close by. It's just now a matter of finding her. But really cool tracks to see because of the way that the elephant tracks were there, and you could see the urine and the dung, and she had walked on top and sniffed around. It was very, very cool to see actually. So quite happy to have seen that, and hopefully we'll find the end result of all of this. The problem, like I say, is you can see what we're dealing with now from where these tracks end up coming, is that it's very undulating terrain. So it's not only is it dense and thick, but it's undulating, which means that the car doesn't get through here very easily at all. So you've kind of got to try and pick a place and check that drainage and check that section and make sure that we don't sort of drive past the track. So what I want to do is just get around onto the other side and just check very nicely, and then there's a little platform that I can go down to, and then I'll check in the riverbed from there to see. I didn't quite get all the way to the riverbed because I was a bit worried that I was making Taylor speak too much by being off tracking, so I just quickly rushed around and rushed back to the car before I followed them all the way through to the drainage itself. So hopefully, like I say, they haven't popped out on this side, and that she's still somewhere here, because it would be really nice if she was here. Certainly would make my life a lot easier if we found her now rather than later. But exciting that Taylor seems to have those line tracks. I'm sure it's the same tracks that I had at Buffelshoek Dam. They went straight south for 2 males, so I think it's the same tracks that she has that side, which is pretty cool. Now, for those of you who have been wondering about the cheetah males over the time and the ones that we used to see around Cheetah Plains, apparently they were just seen this morning as well, walking south towards Cheetah Plains from going towards Nkoro and then onto towards Cheetah Plains, and that they're looking healthy and fit and looking very good. So they're still around and still looking okay. It's such a mess inside here. It's difficult to imagine where we're going to actually find her. Hopefully she's sitting out on a bank in some sunshine. That's what I'm really hoping, and that we just get a glimpse of her with some sunshine. Now, there was some tracks earlier. I came a little bit down this road and I picked up tracks, but it looks like for a male leopard. So I wonder if those are not the same ones that go all the way up to Buffelshoek Dam. So it's not for her. Her tracks should come out somewhere where we are now, is where these tracks should start emerging. If she has come out onto Nyala Road South. I did check Vulture's Nest, nothing that side. So either she's crossed in the time that I drove Vulture's Nest, or she's lying down somewhere here. which hopefully it's the latter. There's more than enough prey items around for her to be lying here, so hopefully that is the case. Let's just check here. And her general direction has been southwards, so I would have been very surprised if she had changed and gone north. I mean, it could happen, but it would surprise me if that was the case. Now I just want to go down here and check, because there's a really nice section down here that I can actually see tracks fairly clearly. Just need to angle the car a little bit better. There's also some nice big trees. Not that I think that there would be a leopard in a tree on a morning like this when it's cold and windy, but you never know. If she's got a carcass, she might be up. So worth just checking down towards the riverbed system. It seems as though Taylor's had all the luck this morning. She's had lots of different animals, which is really cool. It's been nice that we've had lots of different species out and about. We've just really seen the obligatory impalas and a couple nyalas here and there. That's what our morning is, and a lot of footprints, I think. So Senzo hopefully will make you work a little bit now. So no tracks coming out there. Now where I left the tracks would be pretty much straight across the drainage on the other side. So it should be somewhere here that she should have popped out. Now I'm hoping that if I just check some of these pathways, that I might pick up her footprints. You can see there's big prominent pathways like this, and a leopard is much like us as people. It doesn't want to walk through dense thickets and get scratched and have grass in its eyes and have all of those problems. It wants to walk in a nice clear path. And so if you're a human, it's the same for us. We don't really want to walk through thickets if we can walk on a clear path. And so that's why as soon as you see a path, it's good to check there, and you generally will find the footprints somewhere in that area. So back towards the Mulawati and back towards where Tumba was. I'm sure it's Tundi. Just looking at the tracks and following them for a while, it looks just like her footprints. It's quite a small track, but it's still very sort of adult size. It's not quite as small as Shongile is, but it is definitely smaller than somebody like Salahesh. Just also, like I say, checking all the trees as we go, just in case. Now, is this her tracks here? Looks like I might have found her tracks. Can I go forward? I just need to check a little bit further forward. Problem is you also get baboons that walk around. But there we go. There's her tracks right there. So we found her tracks. They're going straight along this pathway, which is fantastic. So that's good news. Let's try and follow these along and see. Maybe we find her here. So a bit of pot luck there, I would say, to try and find these tracks here. Chastity, you say you need to attach or strap a GoPro to me as I go off tracking. Well, sure thing, don't mind doing that. Maybe what I'll do is from now on, every time I go tracking, I'll put some sort of camera on, and then I can post it during the drive or after the drive as to where I've gone and what I got up to while I was tracking, so that you can all see. I did bump into some little warthogs while I was out today. They were looking at me ever so curiously as to what is this thing that's walking around our termite mound, but they were very chill. They didn't have any problem, and they just watched me, and I walked off, and they were pretty happy. Right, now the tracks are still going on the path. Up the hill we go, by the looks of things. Come on, Senzo, where's this leopard? You think it's here? Okay, so Senzo reckons we're going to have good luck now. Let's get up this rise, because she's going up towards the road. So I probably could have just checked along the road more, but, well, it made sense just to come down in case she was down in the riverbed still walking in that section. But it looks like she's going to come out. She should come out onto Vulture's nest right here. Sunat, you want to know whether Tundi is the sister of Hosana. So no, she's not the sister of well, I suppose she is a sister of Hosana, but not the direct sister. So it's not Shongile that we're talking about. So Tundi was Karula's first set of cubs, and so her direct sister is Shadow. So they're a little bit older. They're about 10 years old, but theoretically, yes, they are a sister of Hosanna, but way down the line, and a different father. So it's a little bit of a difference there. So let's say stepsister. That will be a better way to put it. Right, now, tracks so far, not coming out just yet. They must be here somewhere. I've just got to now find if they've crossed straight over the road or if they've walked down the road. Come on, where are you? They can't not be on this road. The last track we had was close enough that it has to have come this way. But like I say, it's just a matter of maybe she walked straight across. Come on, where are these tracks? I was trying to see the other path that was running. It's this one here. So it should be here somewhere. It looks like maybe she's gone straight over back there. Generally though, it's interesting with leopard is they normally, what happens with them is that they'll walk along the road for a little bit before they then cross. It's very seldom that they go just straight across unless there's something that they're busy looking for or that they're hunting. So I'm going to quickly just jump off again and just check behind me, and while we do that, let's go back to Taylor, who I believe has not got the lions but has something equally beautiful and large.
We do indeed, and I've just started hearing squirrels alarming. I think we could be on the right track, perhaps, of these lions, but we're with the elephants at the moment. It's just mom and calf. There don't seem to be any more around unless there's a big herd in the distance, so they could be a satellite party, just a small group. I'm just listening very, very carefully. We know we can't trust squirrels all the time because they tell stories. Could be a raptor flying about too, but we will go and investigate in a minute. We can always come back to the elephants. Hey, just off the road, just feeding, eating all sorts of lovely things. I haven't quite figured out what she's particularly eating. She actually doesn't seem 100% happy with us. Hello girl, it's okay. Because every now and then she'll sort of turn her head very quickly towards us and sort of flare her ears. It could be because she's on her own. She's got a young calf at her side. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe there's a young elephant brewing inside her. She's got some secretion coming from her temporal glands. Actually, I think I can hear one or two more elephants a little bit further away. There might be a herd. Maybe she's in front of the herd at the moment. But I'm happy. Finally. Didn't get much time to spend with that elephant bull yesterday that we had that joined the Nsuku sighting. We've got two now. Ooh, this wind, it really is picking up, and again it could also upset this cow quite a bit. We know that they don't like the wind very much. Ala, you said that you couldn't see her at first, and very camouflaged at this time of the year. It is amazing. Without that tail moving, you actually could catch somebody off guard quite easily. If she stood completely still and you said to somebody, can you see the animal in this picture? I reckon you could fool them quite easily. It's amazing how grey blends into the browns. They really do sort of camouflage so nicely at this time of the year against the bark of the trees. You can hear that wind. It's really unpleasant. I wonder if all the animals are going to be out in the open or if they're going to go down into the drainage lines. I think the lions are probably doing that exact same thing, trying to keep out of this miserable wind at the moment. Now, our squirrel has stopped alarming, so I'm not convinced that there were any lions. Maybe it just saw a raptor, or maybe it was doing a territorial call. I'm not sure. These squirrels, you really just never know with them. Let me go, if I go a little bit further forward, maybe we'll get a better view of that youngster. Let's see, let's try reposition. Oh, that's very loud. Are you going to walk into the gap? Yes, that's a bit better. Like I said, not a very young elephant, probably about 4, maybe even closer to 5 years old now. It's got relatively long tusks. And if it takes 2 steps forward, we'll have a nice view of it coming in this direction. And I'm just scanning off to the distance to see if I can't see any cats laying in the long grass. So this is where we need the buffalo now. And obviously the massive open plains are the first areas where the grass sort of drops below knee height, which you can clearly see that the heavy grazers haven't been through here, besides the elephants. But even they need some help from the buffalo to really sort of shorten that grass. I don't know where they are. I really wonder where those buffalo are and why they haven't arrived this year. Quite interesting, actually, because every year they come. I know they're down in the south. They're seeing huge herds of buffalo on a regular basis. There is a lot of water down there, so maybe that's it. Maybe once those areas start to dry out, then they'll come up north. That's sweet, though. Now, I believe my life in Africa, you're actually wondering when I thought that the buffalo would return. Well, I said ages ago I thought that they were going to be here by the end of July. We're now almost at the end of August and they still haven't arrived, barring a few Duggar boys, a few of the buffalo bulls. So I'm actually done with guessing now. I have no idea when these buffalo are going to arrive, because I reckon that we're going to have rain. It's not uncommon for us to have a bit of rain at the beginning of September, end of August. Maybe then. Maybe they'll only return around that time. But it was the greatest thing when I was guiding down at Earth Lodge at Sabi. There, every single day normally from about the beginning of July, we would see a herd of between 200 and 400 buffalo come and rest at one of the dams, and just in front of the lodge, and they'd sort of relax around there, and then they'd normally go back south towards the Sabi River. You're trying to take your guests to the airstrip and you'd be late for the planes because they just have a huge herd of buffalo. They've decided they're going to sleep in the middle of the road. So that was always quite funny. I actually miss that. I'm trying to navigate through, and it's one of my favorite things to do, is actually sit in and amongst a huge herd of buffalo. It's really an amazing thing to witness, but that might still be to come. Well, let's hope that that's the case. I'll be quite sad if we don't get any decent buffalo sightings this year. We had a couple sort of closer towards here. We had not huge herds, but 20 or 30 buffalo around on Cheetah Plains just every now and then. And it was when the grass was still nice and green. But that's really been it. But the elephants, however, have been in full force by the sounds of it, and actually by the looks of it. Every time I watched, Tristan was sitting with elephants, which was really nice. So I'm quite happy with that. And she looks like she's nibbling on a branch of some sort. You can see there's a bit of round leaf teak around there, and that is one of their favourite things to eat too. See that? Doing that sort of corkscrew motion and stripping the bark completely. Now S4, no, did I get that right? You just said that this is absolutely magnificent. Oh, F4, not S4, not a Samsung. It is. It's also a very rewarding sort of opportunity to sort of just spend time with elephants. I mean, normally I love sitting with a big herd, but I'll take 2 elephants. That's fine at all. But they're very peaceful at the moment. They're not really running around and playing. They're sort of quite focused on just feeding at the moment, reaching in, eating grass every now and then, like I said, feeding on the bush willow stems. They love, not the bush willow, the round leaf teak stems. They really do like that. Just trying to see, no, I don't know where these cats are. So Sebastian and I did a big circle because we obviously spoke to one of the guides and they said no, they think that they're down this way. He obviously hadn't been to the sighting, and we went down that road. We didn't see anything at all. So then we did another loop again back down the airstrip, and then we saw there was another road going off to the left, so I thought, well, let's take it. But no sign of lion tracks just yet. There is a lot of vehicle activity up and down here, so perhaps they are down this road. Perhaps they just moved off the road. Again, that aeroplane could have scared them. They could have decided it's cool enough, let's keep walking. Cats are known to do that. As soon as the sighting is left open, they'll get up and start doing everything that you wanted to do, that you wanted them to do, while you were there. But that's never the case, is it? She's doing a bit of both now. Look at that, not wasting any time. She's got a stem in her mouth, and she's also got some grass in her trunk. So as soon as she finishes stripping the bark off of that tree, the grass is going to go in. Look at that. That's very efficient feeding. And I suppose you have to be when you're that big, and as all those nutrients start to disappear from the grass. We know that elephants have to eat 5% of their body weight every single day, and when you don't have 100% of the nutrients in the, for instance, in the grass or the leaves when they're nice and young and new, you're going to have to almost start doubling the sort of amount of foliage that you feed on, or grass that you feed on. It actually must be quite tiring having to constantly keep feeding all the time. And here's also a red-crested korhaan in the distance. Dr. Rob, you say a salad bar, a bit of this, a bit of that? I suppose, yes, yeah, it is a salad bar, isn't it? Yeah. She's going for the grass now, though. There's not a lot of vegetation in this area that I think has got a fair amount of nutrients in it. I mean, the grass, as you can see, it's very yellow, very dry. The leaves also are looking not so great. The bush willows, I don't think, would be very tasty, so they're going to have to start feeding on the round leaf teaks now. That seems to be their preferred food at this time of the year. And then I'm sure they'll be going down to the drainage lines and hanging around the mulwati and the mulwanini, feeding on all that lush vegetation that's still growing around there. Other than that, it's pretty tough for the animals in winter. It's not easy. But they're moving off into the distance now. I think, Seb, let's carry on. We said we wanted to find lions. It was nice, but I thought these Ellies were going to come closer to us and come towards the road, but now they've turned around. But let's just carry on a little bit further. I thought I saw some tracks up here I actually want to have a look at too, but I think they might be tire tracks. Or are you lion tracks? I don't know what those are. Let's look here. Let's carry on searching. Thank you, elephants. That was nice, a little surprise just to have a quick, elephant sighting. So Tristan has spent more time off the car this morning searching for animals, and I really hope all the effort he's put in is going to pay off. Let's go back across to him. He's back in the car.
Well, Taylor, I'm not sure. I think, unfortunately, we're in a situation where the density of the bush is going to be a problem for us, because this on the left, so our leopard didn't cross the road. It turned and went back down towards the drainage line and then is walking south in the drainage. But that is what it looks like. And it is, I walked south on the tracks, and the tracks are good and they're on top of everything, but there's just no way to even get a car inside here. So even if I wanted to, I don't think we would be able to even find a way to get to a leopard if I found it on foot. So I'm just now slowly skirting along, hoping that potentially this leopard pops out. And as I say that, there's her tracks right there. I didn't even look, but they've come out right here. So I wasn't paying attention at all, and they've come out right here. That's very cool. So I'll just pull across slightly so you can see them. But there they are. They get a bit of sun onto them. Maybe actually shadow is probably better. Now, Cedric, you say that one of your favorite things about Safari Live is the tracking. So it is a fun experience. It's even more fun, like I say, to do it and to bring you guys along with on this journey. So there you go. You can see them going straight across. So near that, a little bit to your left, Senzo, up in the top of the frame. There it is. So there's their footprints going up and over the road. Right, well, that's good news. It means that she's out and she's gone sort of towards Vulture's nest. Now, if they're on top of my vehicle tracks that side, it means that hopefully she should be somewhere close by. So we're getting closer. It's good, at least. From there, where does she go? Devin, you're wondering if it's dangerous to roam around on foot. Well, of course, Devin, there is an element of danger to what we do. So you can bump into things like buffalo and hippos and elephants, and, well, lions and leopards can be dangerous in their own right as well. So yes, there's most certainly an element of danger in what we do. But the thing is that if you're careful about what you do, and you're cautious, and you walk in a way that you're not making a lot of noise, you're watching what's going on, you're looking, you're not walking with your head down when you're tracking. And that's a mistake that a lot of trackers, including myself, have made, is that when you're tracking an animal, you're not you get so focused on its footprint that you end up walking with your head down, which is the singular worst thing that you can do, because when your head is down, you're not looking around and you're not making sure of your environment. So what you've got to do is you basically got to look for the footprint. Once you see the footprint, look at a path and where that footprint is going, and then you walk on that footprint and you walk on that path, and then every now and then you just scan down and you just check that you're still on those tracks. And when you see that, okay, hang on, I can't see the tracks anymore, stop, and then you look around and you go again. And that way you'll never get yourself into a situation where you're getting caught or unawares and you're getting into a place where you shouldn't be. You should then be able to see what's happening and make sure of what's going on. Now, her tracks don't come towards Vulture's nest on this side. I just actually want to just check in front here because I see some disturbance on the road. What have we got here? There's giraffe tracks and there's hyena tracks. Okay, so she hasn't come this way, which means she must have crossed on Vulture's nest side. The problem is now she's heading into a really big block. If she goes over Vulture's nest, it means she's heading into the Mulawati and south of the dam. Now, that area is also very difficult to negotiate if you're not on foot. So, I'm not sure. I don't know. She must have crossed just here because the last tracks I had was straight through there. Anna Marie, you say you're sending special vibes for us to find Thandi because she's sneaky. Well, yes, she is. She's just like her sister in that regard. The two of them are both sneaky individuals, both Thandi and Shadow. They've learned very well from Kruger how to stay hidden in plain sight, and I can't tell you the number of hours I've spent on foot tracking Thandi not to find her. She's often an individual that we don't find. Now I'm just heading in towards the Mulawati because there's a nice sandy section here that I can check and make sure of where these tracks go. You never know, maybe we bump into her right here, but let's just have a little quick squiz and quick look. Should pick up the tracks here. I would imagine she's just come straight over and into this, and then hopefully from here she's going to head southwards. That would be my guess. Or she could have gone north, but maybe she's gone south towards Tumba side. Now of course we're also going to find tracks for Tingana in this area too, because he walked around here last night. So I've got to just be careful that I don't see his tracks and get all excited, because in soft sand it becomes a lot harder to see female versus male tracks. The soft sand pushes the track out and the females look a lot bigger in the soft sand, although obviously Tingana's track would also look quite big, but sometimes you can get a little bit confused by the track size. No, I don't see anything here. Maybe she's just further north in the Mulawati. Philip, you're wondering which animal I would least wish to encounter on foot. Hands down, I would say, well, there's two. There's two of them that are incredibly grumpy on foot, and especially in tight, confined spaces like these drainage lines, and that is buffalo and hippo. Both of them are not pleasant animals to deal with when you're in a tight space like this. You'll find they can both be very aggressive, and there's not really much kind of rationing with those two animals. You know, elephants, rhino, lion, leopard, to some degree will warn you and give you a bit of a sort of charge and kind of try and scare you more than anything else before they actually come at you properly. So whereas with these guys, buffalo in particular, they have no warning and they come out and just fly at you, and hippos tend to be very grumpy animals, and so they sometimes can be a bit of a handful too. So those two are the ones I least want to encounter when I'm on foot, particularly when we're tracking now, because we don't use rifles obviously on our cars, and so you're tracking now completely unarmed, and you've got to keep your wits about you a little bit, and that's why you'll find Brent and James walk around with a stick, and that's to try and keep those animals at bay, and to try and just push them, well, to try and have some sort of thing to, if the animals come, that they can throw, or that they can in some way deter that predator from coming towards them. Now here's some Nyala in front. This has been Nyala everywhere. It's a Nyala female that we've got. Now her tracks must be north of me. They can't have come south here because I would have picked them up already. Although, what are these in here? I think these are for our Nyala. Yes, those are the Nyala tracks. So there's our little Nyala just going to hopefully cross in front of us. There's lots of them around at the moment in the Mulawati. It's incredible how the population of Nyala has exploded over the last few years and how our bushbuck populations have declined. When we first started in the Sabi Sands, the Nyala was not the most common animal to see. You would see them every now and then, but not hugely common, only along these river sections. But now they seem to be more and more and more proliferating in the area, and because they occupy the same space as a bushbuck but they're much larger, the poor bushbuck are being forced into more open areas, and which are not the right environment for them at all, and they end up unfortunately being killed. So it's not good that we're seeing a lot of Nyala as opposed for the bushbuck's sake, but the Nyala is a beautiful animal, so I suppose it does happen this way, and there are still enough bushbuck along the banks of some of the river sections that we don't have to stress just yet that they're going to completely disappear. But our Nyala seems to be walking away. Interesting though, it's on its own. Generally female Nyala in small groups, so I wonder if the rest aren't on the top somewhere, just hiding out of the wind. Oh, Tundi, where have you gone? I feel like I could get grey hairs over tracking Tundi and Shadow. In fact, I think I've got grey hairs already from tracking those two for the last few years. But anyway, we'll keep trying and keep seeing where we can look. And the problem is, north of where we are now is not really a place that I can go. So she's obviously hanging out behind the dam wall in that section. Her tracks keep going towards that direction, so I wonder if maybe she's not just found herself a perfect place to lie up during the day, that she knows it's quiet and we don't bother her too much, and that's why she heads in that place. She's a clever girl, and she'll know exactly where it is quieter than being right out in the open where lots of vehicles can see you and other animals. So her son would do well to learn from his mother in some ways, because he obviously has had a rough couple of days, and I wonder where he ended up last night. He put some jet shoes on and ended up running northwards, but since then we haven't found any sign of him coming out. So no, nothing that I can see, unfortunately. Josh, you say you wouldn't run into a hyena on foot. Well, Josh, funny enough, hyenas actually are not too bad on foot. Everybody always has this complete fear of hyenas and really worry about them, but they're actually not as bad as you might think. They're certainly not, it's not that they're not dangerous in any way, but generally with hyenas, when they see somebody on foot, we're quite a large animal because we stand upright, so we're quite tall animals, and that's a little bit intimidating. And so hyenas, generally when you see them, they kind of see you and they're like, no, I don't want to deal with this, and they then just move off. They very seldom will be aggressive, unless they obviously have some sort of food item that you're taking from them, or you trying in any way to hurt them. Then you'll find that they tend to be a little bit more on the grumpy side and can be a bit aggressive, and they are particularly dangerous for kids. But for us as adults, they're actually quite nervous of us and really don't give us too many problems at all. I've walked into probably more hyenas than anything else, and I've never had a bad experience with a hyena where it's charged me or anything like that. In fact, when I worked at Lion Sands, there was hyenas there that used to follow you around. So if you walked from the lodge back to your room at night, the hyenas would just follow behind you. It was almost like a dog would, and they'd just walk with about a meter or two behind, and you'd turn around and they would stop and look at you, and then you would carry on walking and they'd walk with you. So it was one of those things where they kind of knew that they weren't really supposed to be close to you, but they would follow you because they would try and get into your room to try and steal food. And when Ellie's back, we'll have to ask her to tell everyone about the time she had a hyena in her room. It was quite something. The mess that was made after that was just a whole nother level, and poor Ellie had to end up cleaning it up after game drive. It was not very pleasant at all, so I'm sure she will tell you all about it when she gets back. Now, the reason why I'm coming down this way is just because this is where we had Tingana and Tamba yesterday. Worth checking, worth just seeing if potentially he's still here and she might have come back to look for him and circle around. Maybe that's why her tracks are heading in this direction. So if she was here, we most certainly will pick up that she was walking around and looking and checking. But I don't see any sign within the tracks. I think Taylor drove here already though, so she might have driven over tracks if they were around. Is that there's just tracks everywhere. So Tamba obviously had a field day in the last few days here, so So, Mrs. Zero, you want to know, is there a friendly animal to bump into? Well, none of the antelopes are particularly aggressive towards you, so they're pretty chilled and you can walk through them and that's okay. Giraffe are fairly relaxed, so those animals are, I suppose friendly is not the right word, but they're relaxed in that regard. Hosanna's fairly friendly when you bump into him. He also follows you around as you walk, so he's not the worst cat to bump into. Just trying to think who else. But that's it. The rest of the animals are fairly nervous of us. Remember that people have been predators of a lot of these animals for centuries, and it's ingrained in them that when they see our shape that this is potentially something that they must be careful of, and so they most of the time will see us and move away from us. They're far more relaxed with the vehicles than us as people on this or in this area. So, you know, at the end of the day, none of them are actually friendly. They're just more habituated or relaxed to us on foot as opposed to anything else. So hopefully we will come across a very relaxed leopard shortly in terms of Tamba or Tandi, and they will be nice. They will be aggressive. Let's go back to Taylor, who is also on a tracking mission, larger with slightly bigger.
Well, we haven't found anything just yet. We're not driving off-road, just in hope to try and find something. But we've got some birds that we can show you. Normally we don't off-road for birds, but that's not the reason why we're off-road, of course. They are feeding on what's left of one of the centers, eating all the beans. There are some starlings, looks like a Cape Glossy starlings, and then also the go-away birds, which seem to be sort of the most fond of feeding on all of these little beans. Isn't that beautiful, with the sun just catching the beautiful iridescence that the starlings have? I don't know where these lines are. I don't know if they've moved to keep out of the wind. That's a possibility. If the aeroplane maybe startled them, maybe they were right next to the airstrip and then they ran off. And we followed a variety of line tracks, and they've really just led us absolutely nowhere. They were very busy around this entire area last night. And they obviously weren't successful in catching whatever they must have been chasing about. Isn't this nice though? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Cape Glossy starlings, and then we've also got the 2 go-away birds. That's very pretty. They would make great Christmas decorations. Don't you think, if you could get them to sit still for long enough? Those beautiful birds. Also all dangling upside down and trying to eat as many of them. This one's taking a break though from feeding and really just catching the warm rays of the sun, trying to keep nice and warm. Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful picture? Oh, they are lovely. Actually, I can't see the little dots on the wings. Are these not maybe the greater... I don't know if these are Cape Glossy. I think it might be the greater blue-eared. Let me just have a quick look at my app. Normally the Cape Glossy starlings have got these little black dots on their wings, and I can't really see them. Let me go to S. They all look so similar. Starlings, got to go all the way down there. I've got to find the right ones. Yeah, I wonder if this is not the greater blue-eared starling. They've got sort of more of a greenish tinge, don't you think? Yeah. Orange eye, which the Cape Glossy has as well. Yeah, I think that this is actually the greater blue-eared starlings. I don't think that these are the Cape Glossy. And so their call sounds a little bit different. I actually want to listen to their call very quickly. Let's see what the call has to say. Where are you? I'm now confused. Let me have a look at the Cape Glossy starling though. Maybe I don't know. I'm actually a bit stumped here. No, I think it's still the Cape Glossy starling. It is. I'm confused. I'm getting a bit excited. Yeah, it is. I just haven't seen a greater blue-eared starling for such a long time. And obviously some of them get the black dots on the wings and some of them don't. I'm trying to think. But if I always stand under correction. You're welcome to tell me if I'm wrong. I don't mind. Now, obviously we're talking about lots of birds. That's a beautiful shot. And Maggie, you're wondering if we get hummingbirds here. We don't get hummingbirds. We get something that looks slightly similar and sort of the same beak shape as well as the same sort of size. We call them sunbirds. And I saw a white-bellied sunbird just before I went on leave. I haven't been seeing them for quite some time. They should start to come back with all the flowers that are about. There's lots of different kinds. And then we get the amethyst, which are almost black in color but have got a beautiful iridescence to them too. The white-bellied sunbirds, the collared sunbirds, the Marico sunbirds. Oh my goodness. And honestly, the list is absolutely endless. There are so many different types, and they're very pretty. Hopefully once the boerbeens they start flowering, they get a beautiful red flower on. They seem to love them quite a bit, and then we see them hanging around on those trees, so that's quite nice. That's a beautiful shot. They're really striking birds, and we've got a couple more coming to join in too. We've now got 7 of them all fluttering around here. We're very happy. Not enjoying the wind so much, so you can imagine it makes it difficult. It's one thing, when it's a still day, trying to feast upon something that's dangling right at the edge of a very thin stem, and then when you have the wind, look at that. It makes it a lot more sort of testing of their skills. But this one's doing a very, very good job. Now, they don't seem to be eating the skin of those pods. They're obviously trying to pry it open and get those little beans inside. That'll be all I've got tongue-tied there. I couldn't even say a word. It'll be full of lots of sustenance. That's a good meal to have. I'm not a fan of beans, though. I prefer not to eat them. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 starlings now. Loads of them. So, not uncommon though to see lots of starlings together. They're exceptionally... They are actually quite gregarious, these birds. And I love to see them bathing. It's one of my favorite things, in fact. And it's a sighting that I keep saying I want to have, is of Cape Glossy starlings all down in a mud wallow. It's one of the most amazing things to watch, especially when the sun is on them. One of the hardest things to do, I find, is for first-time safarians. When they come on, everyone just wants to see the big animals and they're so excited. But of course in Africa we've got the most amazing selection of birds out here, and butterflies and things like that. So we try and sort of get our guests to love the things that we know that they'll love eventually. And I had guests that were adamant they did not want to stop for one bird. And we came across a big group of starlings like this. In fact, we were very lucky. We actually had some rhinos in the distance too, and that's why we were in the area. And I thought that these rhinos were going to go and wallow. Rhinos didn't end up wallowing, but however many starlings there were, probably about the same number that we're looking at, all flew down to the ground and bathed in the beautiful water, and it was the most magnificent starling. And then from that day forward, they wanted to see all the different birds that Africa sort of had to offer. So it was nice to convince them, and it was such a beautiful sighting. But we'll carry on searching for our cats, and hopefully we're going to find them. I know Tristan, of course, he's been searching for them. He's been out of the car trying to track them. Let's go back across to him. Maybe he's going to give up. I'm not sure.
Well, Taylor, we never really give up, do we? It's a perpetual system of tracking that we go through. We just kind of different cat, different day sort of situation. But at this stage, I'm just doing a wider loop because I can't find any signs in the Mulawati, which is where I thought I would find signs for both Tundi and Tumba. But alas, there's been nothing there. So I'm just doing now Elephant Carcass, which is where Tingana kind of headed yesterday afternoon or last night. And in case they maybe push this way, and then from there I want to head around Pangolin track and then up Twin Dams towards sort of Chelapan side, and then that way see if I can't find any signs of them coming out. But if nothing, then they must still be in that northern section of the Mulawati up above Chelapan, which is where we've checked from already. So just want to see if she doesn't pop out that way. Also, like I say, with little Tumba running around, he might have unfortunately moved off a little bit further to the west, and in sort of trying to get away from Tingana. So that's why I'm just checking a little further west in case he ended up coming this way. I can also tell that there was a lot of activity in terms of hyenas last night. They were up and down all over this area, so I wonder if maybe they didn't bump into our little friend as well. It's tough being a young male in this area. There's lots of other animals to deal with and to try and keep at bay. So hopefully he's all fine. I'm sure he is though. But Tandi's tracks are, like I say, nothing coming south to where Tamba was left. So I would imagine that it would be nice to, well, that she's probably in that vicinity, or she called and she heard Tamba somewhere else and has then just gone straight across the Milawati maybe. James, you're wondering which leopard I miss the most. Ooh. And that's a tough one. I don't know, there's so many that have come and gone and in areas that I've worked. I think that are alive currently. Probably Tiani more than and Anderson. Those two are probably my two that I miss the most from a current live point of view. The ones that have unfortunately moved on and no longer seen. Tima was an awesome leopard for us. We used to see her all the time on Hoffmans and Little Gari, and when I was working at Chitwa, she was our go-to leopard. It was the leopard that we looked for the most, and used to have some crazy sightings of her. So Tima probably on the female side, and on the male side, I would say probably Imsahwen, which is it's hyena tracks. So Senzo's just pointing out tracks for me, and they are hyena tracks that are moving up the road. I think, Senzo, let's make 100% sure before I say things that are not true. But I think they are, yes they are. They're hyena tracks from the other road. But Msehwen, who is Anderson's father, well, reportedly Anderson's father, he was a brute of a male, and I didn't get to see him too much, but I used to remember fondly we used to check for him on the Double M or the Mala Mala boundary with Chitwa. And you used to drive, and it's a long straight road, much like Gowrie Main or Triple M, very similar kind of roads, or Buffelshoek boundary. It's typical of cut lines. And you used to drive that road, and you would all of a sudden just see this figure in the distance, and you always used to think lioness, and you'd get a kind of that train of thought, and then you'd look in your binoculars, and there would be this massive male leopard walking down the road. So he was a very cool animal, and he had this very similar look to him like Anderson, kind of a bit grumpy and a bit eerie and scary looking. So I used to really enjoy trying to find him, and he was a difficult cat to also track. He didn't really like to be tracked that much. He used to be just like Anderson and move around all over the place. So I think those are the female and males that I miss currently and that have gone since. So obviously there's so many that you end up with. Hello, little Steenbok. Now, because we've been tracking all morning, I suppose it would be nice. No, don't run away. Our Steenbok was lying down, but it is now jogged off, but it has stopped maybe enough for us to get a view of it. Can you see it there, Sensor? It was somewhere in that grass. No, gone. I thought it had stopped for us, but it's just carried on. Or is that it's over there? No, it's gone. Unfortunately, our Steenbok has decided to vacate us as well. It's one of those mornings, unfortunately. But let's check Pangolin track. Let's see if there isn't a sign of these leopards coming this way. But as I was saying, there's so many different leopards that you end up seeing, and you get attached to all of them. There's not one leopard that you don't have this kind of feeling of wanting to see again and wanting to spend time with. Unfortunately, there's been a lot that I wish I'd spent more time with and had been able to kind of actually follow around and get to know better. So there's been a lot of those. I remember there was a male that was down at Kirkman's camp, and for the life of me I can't remember his name right now. I don't know why I can't remember. Roller Coaster male, that was right. So he was called Roller Coaster, and he reminds me a lot of Hosanna for some reason. I don't know why. It's just also a very pretty kind of bulky individual, and there's something about him. But he was also an absolute rock star like Hosanna and Tamba, young male, and eventually then distributed out. But I would love to see where he ended up. Now, I believe Taylor's got something that we don't see too often and might disappear, so let's quickly go across to her.
No, it's gone. The wind has blown it. It was a dust devil, as we call it. The wind had caught up with all the with all the dust and it was swirling around on the airstrip. Was actually quite cool. I just wanted to show you how windy it is, but the wind blew it all away. I think we're going to start going home. I have given up on searching for those cats. I don't know where they are. I'm confused. There's lion tracks here. There's literally just lion tracks everywhere, and I'm sure there's the odd leopard track in and amongst the lion tracks too. So it sounds like it's been a fairly quiet morning. They did have a cheetah. I haven't really heard anything more about the cheetah. That sounded like it was on Cheetah Plains somewhere. The Birminghams are still on a net, 2 of them. They didn't tell me which 2 Birminghams were down that end. So it's hard to say. But I don't know. I'm confused about these lions, and Seb and I have been talking about it most of the morning. They could literally be anywhere. They could have quite easily got up and moved. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But we'll start making our way back home now on Chitwa driveway. Go all the way down there. Now, James, you're wondering the same question that obviously Tristan had answered about which cats do I miss seeing. So obviously working down in the south, I think the leopard that I missed the most was a leopard by the name of Lisbon, and she also just mysteriously disappeared, left her son, who was only less than a year and a half old, or to fend for himself. And she was my absolute favorite cat. I saw her almost every single day, and she'd always come to the lodge, and she was an amazing feline. She was one of those, the cats like sort of quarantine, absolutely loved to pose, always on termite mounds, always in marula trees. She was absolutely beautiful. So I miss her a lot. And then there was another leopard by the name of Warthog Wallow as well, and Tristan will know Warthog Wallow. And she was a beautiful, a big leopard. She looked like a male leopard, actually. She was that big. Not a Tingana male leopard, but quite big. Often you'd see her walking through the bushes and you'd missex her, and you'd say, no, it's one of the males, and then out she'd come and you go, oh no, hang on, it's Warthog Wallow. But she also disappeared. She was quite old though, so I suspect that she probably passed on and became weak and couldn't hunt. And I love the Southern Pride. They were really nice to see. Also the Charleston Pride was quite, well, not the Charleston males, but the Pride that they originally came from. It ended up just being one female, and she had her 2 offspring, and then there was another younger male following her around as well. He must have been about, I think it was called the Hilda's Rock male, in fact. He joined up with them. They were quite nice. We used to see them regularly down in the south. Little Bush, the feistiest leopard I've ever come across in my entire life. Actually, Mvula's mother. She also goes, I think, by the outcrop female or something. There's another name that the rest of the sands called her. We knew her as Little Bush. I couldn't believe that, actually. So I spent quite a bit of time with her. I've told you quite a few stories about her. She always used to charge us on foot. My tracker would walk. Every tracker, when you knew that you were tracking that female, you would literally, or the tracker, sorry, there's some vehicles passing us. I'm just going to get past. No, I hope you don't tip the car. Let's go like that. And they would walk with pangas. Oh, look at that lilac-breasted roller. That's beautiful. Isn't that nice? I can't even see on the screen. I have to find my cloth to wipe it. It's a lovely close view. Now you can see how windy it is too. You can watch it. And I actually have a surprise for you. You know I love to collect feathers, and I found a really cool feather. Please still be here, please still be here. It has to still be here. And it's the feather of that bird that you're looking at right now. I'll show it to you when it eventually flies away. But easily the prettiest bird that we have in the northern Sabi sand, and it's around here all year long. We're very, very lucky. But I'm going to have to move because there's a car coming past, so I'm just going to have to move off the road. Obviously someone is getting picked up. Oh, and it's just flown to a higher branch. Actually, we're gonna just keep this. Let's get off the main road. There's just, everyone's coming home now. Game drive's about to end. So if I stop here, I'm gonna start talking and I'm gonna have to reposition 500 times. So let's not do that. Let's just go up a little bit further, and we'll try and pull off on Cheetah cut line or something. Maybe that will help. So I'll just hold this feather in my hand. How far away are we? Ooh, my hat's gonna blow off. Oh, okay, so I believe that Tara found you a vulture feather while she was here. That's quite nice. She's left it in the tent. We'll have to go and have a look at it at some point. That's quite nice. Yeah, I'm trying to add to my collection. I still want to go and have a look at that area where the Verreaux's eagle eye is, and maybe we'll find one there. It'll be a nice one. But my favorite one is the Corey busted feather. That's so cool. I'm going to stop just here, and then we will not be bothered anymore. Meow. Let's pull in just like that. Then anybody can pass us. Well, I've been driving my own car. I keep on to turn it off on the other side. And obviously, everything is the opposite on these cars. I don't know how still it's going to stay. Let me try and hold it down like that. That is obviously from a lilac-breasted roller, and it's one of the streamers. Can you believe it? I couldn't believe my luck when I found it. I thought to myself, well, very lucky and unfortunate for the bird. I don't know why it would have shed this. Maybe it's not a good feather anymore. Maybe it was being chased by a small raptor and it managed to escape with its life, losing a couple of feathers. But I thought that was really cool that I got to get, of course, a lilac-breasted roller streamer feather. Very cool. Let me put it back before I lose it, because if it does blow away, you'll watch me chasing it down the street too. Ooh, okay, let me put that back in. Now that's safe. But we're going to start making our way back home now. We're on Djuma now, but we'll probably go down Weaver's Nest. Let's see what Tristan's plans are for the final minutes of the show.
Well, I'm just on Twin Dams having a little look around, seeing if potentially any tracks came out on top of Taylor's tracks. So far, nothing that I can see. And so I would imagine that these leopards are somewhere in the Mulawati and are hidden from us at the moment, which is okay. That's the way it goes, and like I say, it makes it all that much better when we eventually do find these spotted cats, because when they make you work for it, then you feel a lot more of a sense of accomplishment when you do find them. Unfortunately, you just haven't really got enough time. Sometimes leopard tracking can take a very long time, and sometimes you'll track them and track them and track them and you'll find absolutely nothing. So, you know, just checking around Chelapan area just to see if there isn't something happening here. Now, I believe Taylor was talking about Warthog Wallow female down in the south. I do know her very well, and all of you should know that she is related to Mvula. So she is a relative of Mvula. You have her sister Outcrop is the mother for Mvula. So there we go. At least she is in some way connected to our northern leopards up here, and she was a very cool leopard. I really did enjoy spending a lot of time with her, and she hung around a lot just on the Sabi Lion Sands boundary. So we used to get her a lot. Sabi used to get her a lot. And look at these Impala, look how alert they are. Even though it's a bright sunny morning, and generally if this was a few days ago when it was hot, these guys would have been super chilled feeding, but look at them now with the wind. Ears are up, they're alert, they're checking around, they're not sure what's going on. Maybe one of our leopards is somewhere here. This is the last tracks we had for Tundi. It was just on the eastern side of where we are now, so that's why they could be also a little bit more alert. They might pick up the scent that a leopard's been around here during the night or something like that, and they certainly are very aware of their surroundings. It's going to be a tough day, and it must have been a tough night for these guys with that very heavy wind that was blowing. You would have found that the Impalas would have had a struggle. And look, you can actually see the fur rippling in the wind, which is not common to see on our short-haired antelope. So even the Impalas are being blown about a bit. Shame, Gula, you're a bit nervous. He doesn't seem nearly as stressed out as what the female is. The reason why we're also seeing the fur of them sort of blowing in the wind is because they've puffed their fur out to stay warm. You can hear the wind is whipping around, and it's cold, this wind. It's not a very nice wind at all. Like I say, it's got a kind of icy feel to it. And so they puff their fur out just to trap air against the body to warm themselves up, and that's why we can actually see the kind of fur fluttering in the breeze. Yes, we're talking about you. It would be amazing if she just started alarm calling and out of the bush appeared a spotted cat. That would be absolutely incredible for us, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think unfortunately we've run out of a bit of time. Mr. Zero, you say they're super fluffy. Well, they are very fluffy at this time of the morning because it's cold. You'll find during the day they start to flatten their hair down and they actually become sleek and smooth, and they look as though they've been to a parlor and have been brushed and kind of given some sort of oil for their coat that it shines so much. So a little bit different when it gets warmer, but now in the cold it's all about function rather than fashion, and so they puff themselves up to be able to stay warm. The one animal that does look super furry is a waterbuck. So I don't know if Taylor saw any around Chitwa today, but waterbuck generally have fluffy coats, and they're really cool to see, particularly on a windy day, because they also puff themselves up. So no, she didn't see any waterbuck today, which is a surprise. Generally Chitwa has got quite a few around that area. You normally see them around the dam or even behind the lodge. They're generally quite close by, but maybe with those male lions walking through that area, they could potentially have just pushed everybody on and made sure that not too much was around. Everybody's relaxing a little bit now. You can see there's a bit of chewing happening. It's now ruminating. So this is the advantage that prey animals have over predators, is that they, well, not over predators, but over certain other animals, is that they're able to ruminate. And so while they're actually gaining nutrients, they're still watching out for any prey items and seeing what's going on and making sure that there isn't something lurking about, but still able to gain nutrients. So it's a very clever system if you're a prey animal to have. But alas, I think that's it. I think we're going to probably start heading home because, like I say, we've run out of time to really properly track in this area. I want to do just one quick loop around the back of Chelapan, just in case there isn't a leopard lurking in one of these thickets here, which I don't think there is, but we're just going to have a little quick look while we've got a few minutes to kill, and to see if there isn't any sign of one of these leopards just hiding out behind here. They sometimes do spend a bit of time in this background area, and you'll find that we drive past, and you saw with Tumba, his camouflage is unbelievable. Even in a big open section like Twin Dams, he can blend. So you can imagine in a thicket like this that both him and Tundi are animals that would really join or blend into this environment and become very tough to see. So it's worth just coming around the back here and just having a little squiz and having a little look. But I think this cold front has definitely played a bit of havoc with our animals and where they are positioning themselves. I would imagine that wherever they are, they're sitting somewhere in this glorious sunshine, just enjoying it and absorbing some warmth and taking it very easy. But here we go, you can see, looks like their tracks are all over here as well. So there's hyena tracks, there's leopard tracks. So it seems as though everybody was here. In fact, I think these are Tumba's tracks. If you have a look here, and this looks about the freshest track I've seen for this male today, but there they are just on the sand. So maybe he's somewhere here in one of these thickets, but there's his track just on that open section of sand. You can hear a go away bird calling. There we go, and look at that, that's a nice clean print that we're seeing there. So maybe he's lurking in this little thicket as well. I'm certainly going to try come back into this area this afternoon and try and see if I can't find them, because there's signs for not only him but also for Tundi in this particular section, so they must be somewhere around here, I would imagine. Right, well, like I say, I'm going to come back this afternoon, but let's go back to Taylor McCurdy and see if she's managed to get home already. It seems as though she must be hungry because she's putting foot to get back home.
Now, Tristan, not always, just sometimes. And I'm going to drive back like this fast. We'll never, Seb's going, no! Well, we are back. We're on Twin Dams Road. We're going to pop out close to Vuyatela Dam. It was a fairly quiet morning in terms of the cats not being around, especially after yesterday. My goodness, we had cats coming out of our ears. It was quite great. But I enjoyed the rose eagle owl sighting. That was absolutely spectacular. The birds birds have been on form this morning, singing their beautiful songs, and the elephants, and hopefully this wind won't chase all the animals away. I think it's only going to get worse from here. I don't know if it's going to die down for this afternoon, but that just means Tristan and I are going to have to sort of drive around the drainage lines, and perhaps we can go and sit at Chitwa Dam. It'd be nice to go and see all the hippos. I did pass a fish eagle on the way, so we know that they're around as well. And well, I've noticed that a lot more of the guarri trees have started to get little flowers on them, so perhaps we'll have to go to Impala Plains and seek shelter amongst the guarri trees and hopefully find some fruit on them too, because surely they will be ready for me to eat. I've been talking about them for the last couple of months now, so it's about time. But again, it has been fantastic. Thank you for spending the morning with us, and we hope that you enjoyed it. I look forward to looking at your screenshots later, but we'll see you this afternoon for the Sunset Safari.